Okay, boys and girls, welcome to day 2, lesson 2, factoring polynomials. And again, this lesson should be a review of what you learned in Math 1 and Math 2 on how to factor trinomials. I'm going to show you two methods of factoring trinomials. The first method only works if your coefficient is 1. Okay? So if your leading coefficient, the number before your x squared, is 1, this method works. It's a nice quick way of doing it. It's a guess and check method. So let's look at some examples when our coefficient, when a is 1, when the coefficient of x squared is 1. Now we're factoring this. So we're trying to find two things that we can multiply to get x squared plus 8x plus 15. So if it's a trinomial, 1, 2, 3 terms, and the leading coefficient is 1, this method will work. So what we have to do is find two terms which multiply to the third term and add to the second term. So in other words, I need to find two numbers I can multiply to get 15. So I could do 15 and 1, I could do 3 and 5, and that's about it. Now, of those factors, which of those factors will add to get 8? Now, one thing I want to say, because this is positive, either both of my terms are positive, or I could also look at negative 15, negative 1, negative 3, negative 5, because they both would have to be negative to multiply to get a positive 15. So which set of these numbers will add to get positive 8? And that's 3 and 5. So because the coefficient is 1, I can just simply say this is x plus 3 times x plus 5. Now, if we were to multiply this out using FOIL, we would see that that answer would take us back to this one. Okay? Alrighty? Let's do the next one. We're trying to find two numbers that will multiply to give us positive 30, but add to get negative 11. So because 30 is positive, that means both of the numbers have to be either positive or they both have to be negative. Since I want a negative in the middle, both of these numbers have to be negative. So what two numbers can I multiply to get 30? Well, let's think about it. 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 6 and 5, 30 and 1. So which of these, when I add together, will give me negative 11 in the middle? Well, because this is positive, they both have to be negative. So we see that negative 6 and negative 5 would work. So I simply write x minus 6, x minus 5. Now notice that this one is negative. So my 9 now is negative. So that means when I'm looking for numbers, one has to be positive, one has to be negative. So what two numbers can I multiply to get 9? Well, there's 3 and 3, and 9 and 1. I think that's it. I want it to be negative in the middle. So if I did negative 3 and negative 3, that would give me negative 6 in the middle. I'm sorry, if I did negative 3 and positive 3, that's going to give me 0 in the middle. So I know that's not true. If I do 9 and negative 1, if I add that together, I'll get positive 8. But what if I did negative 9 and 1? If I add those together, I get negative 8. So this is my choice. So it's simple, x minus 9, x plus 1. Now, this one, normally, the next problem that we're going to do, sometimes kids get in trouble with this one because they don't know what we're looking for in the middle. But you have to remember that the coefficient here is 1. So we're trying to find two numbers that we can multiply to get negative 20 and add to get 1. So the numbers I can multiply to get 20 are 2 and 10, 20 and 1, 4 and 5. I think that's it. So I want a positive 1 in the middle. So if I do 4 and 5, and I made 5 positive and 4 negative, that'll give me a positive 1 in the middle. So this would be x minus 4, x plus 5. So one thing that might help you with this is to your multiplication facts. if you want to just draw a multiplication table or obtain a multiplication table from somewhere, that might be helpful. Okay, so I want you to pause the video and come back and do those, and then I'll come back and we'll do them together. Okay, welcome back. I'm just going to walk through these quickly. What can I multiply to get 12? Add to get 8, 6, and 2. And because 12 is positive, they both would be negative. And the middle was negative. I'm looking for two numbers that will multiply to get negative 24, which means they have to subtract to get negative 2. So 6 and 4, with 6 being negative and 4 is positive. Remember on the next one, I hope you remember that we're trying to get 1 in the middle. So what can I multiply to get 6 and add to get 1, 2, and 3? And 3 has to be positive because I want that positive in the middle. And what can I multiply to get 12? Add to get 7, 4, and 3. Okay? All right, that is when A is 1. Now let's do when A is not 1. This one requires a couple of more steps. Okay? So when A is not 1. And by the way, the method I'm about to show you here works all the time. So if you don't like the guess and check method, well, you still have to guess and check. You can also use this method. Okay? So the first thing we do is we factor out the GCF if there is one. We're going to talk more about this on Thursday. So then we're going to multiply the first and the last number. We call that A times C. We're going to find two numbers that multiply to get the product and add to get the middle term. Then we're going to replace the middle number with those two numbers, and then we're going to factor by grouping. I know it sounds like a lot of steps, but it's okay. All right, so the first thing we have to do is multiply the 5 and the 12. That's where we're going to start. So we multiply first, is there a GCF? No, there was not a GCF. So I'm going to multiply A times C. And that gives me 60. Now, what two numbers can I multiply to get 60 and add to get negative 17? I know both of these numbers have to be negative in order to get a negative in the middle, but a positive on the outside. So I know I can do 6 and 10. I can do 12 and 5. Oh, look, 12 and 5 works because I need negative 17. So I need both of those to be negative, and when I add those together, I get negative 17. Okay, so once I get those two numbers, now technically when I multiply those together, I got 60x squared. So I have to remember there's an x on each of these, okay? So we're going to keep the first one the same. Then we're going to take that negative 12x minus 5x that I got from here. And I am replacing the 17 with negative 12x and negative 5x and then plus 12. I now have 4 terms. Does this look like anything that we've done recently? Yeah, it looks a little bit like factor by grouping. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to factor by grouping. Okay, so remember when we factor by grouping, we ask what does 5x squared and 12x have in common? And the only thing they have in common is x. So we factor out an x. And that's going to leave me 5x minus 12. Well, what does negative 5x and 12 have in common? Nothing except for 1. And remember, because the leading term is negative, I'm going to factor out a negative 1, which is going to make that 5x minus 12. Now they have 5x minus 12 in common. So I take out what they have in common, and I replace it with x. I took out a negative 1 here, x minus 1. And I have factored that. Again, you can multiply that out, see that it works. All right, let's do another one. I'm multiplying A times C to get 2. Now, remember 2x squared. Now, what two numbers can I multiply to get 2x squared? Well, that's kind of easy. The only numbers that I can multiply to get 2x squared are 2x and 1x. So I'm going to write the 2x squared stays the same, the minus 1 stays the same, and the negative x becomes these two factors. Plus 2x. Oh, wait a minute. I need it to be negative, so I need to figure out my signs. I wanted to add to get negative 1, so that means negative 2 and positive 1. So this is going to be 2x squared, and then minus 2x plus 1x minus 1. I'm just going to put that in a different color. So that's minus 2x plus 1 x. Oh no, it just didn't look good to me. All right, now we go back and we're going to factor by grouping. What does 2x squared and 2x have in common? Simply 2x. So that leaves me with x minus 1. What does 1x and negative 1 have in common? Just 1. So then we see that they have x minus 1 in common. So we pull out that x minus 1. And then what's left is 2x plus 1. Okay? Now, I included this one in here. We're going to do it this way, even though we could easily do it guess and check. We're going to do it the long way because I want you to see that it works for both of these. So we're going to start by multiplying these two together. And that gives me negative 27 x squared. So I'm asking myself, what two numbers can I multiply to get negative 27, add to get 6? So let's come down here and let's brainstorm. So negative 27, what two numbers can I multiply to get negative 27? I know 3 times 9, 27 times 1. I don't think there's anything else that I can multiply. So if I want a positive 6, so one of these has to be positive, one of them has to be negative. If I want a positive 6 in the middle, then I do a negative 3 and a positive 9. Okay? So remember, I write the ends stay the same. Sorry. And then the 6x is going to be rewritten with these two factors. Negative 3x plus 9x minus 27. Okay? Then I'm going to factor by grouping. What do they have in common? Well, this only has x in common, so that's x minus 3. What do these two have in common? They have 3 in common, so that's x minus 3x minus 3. I got a problem here somewhere. What did I do wrong? Okay, so we rewrote this. We got x minus 3. Oh, I know what I did wrong. The GCF here is not 3x, it's 9. Sorry. So the GCF here is 9, and that leaves x minus 3. So what do they have in common? X minus 3. And what comes out? X plus 9. Easy peasy. All right, let's do 3 more, and then I'll let you work on your own for a little bit. So I'm going to do this one. We're going to start by multiplying A and C to get 14. That should be an X. It'll be an X when you see it. That'll give us 14x squared. So what can we multiply to get 14 and add to get 9? So the factors of 14 are 14 and 1, and 7 and 2. That's it. And if I want a positive 9 in the middle, they both have to be positive because the end is positive. So remember, I write the first term, I write the last term, and then the middle term are my factors that I got here. So this is plus 7x plus 2x, and then a plus 2 that was already there. Okay? Then I factor by grouping. I group these two together, I group these two together, and the GCF here is 7x. Remember, when everything is factored out, when everything's canceled out, a 1 is left. So I factor out a 2, and I get x plus 1. I notice that x plus 1 are in common. And I write what's left, which is 7x plus 2. Okay, we're going to do another one. We multiply the 4x squared and the negative 15 together, so that gives us negative 60x squared. Well, we had this a similar problem like this earlier. So what can I multiply to get negative 60, but add to get 17? And I think we decided, what did we decide? 12. Oh, this is different because before, I think they were both negative. So I was going to do 12 and 5, but that no longer works. We're trying to get 17 in the middle. 6 and 10. 4 and 15. I think I may have made a mistake, and this should be plus. So then 12 and 5 works. So we're going to use 12 and 5. So we have 4x squared, and we put our 15 on the outside, and then we rewrite 17x to 12x plus 5x. Okay, so my GCF here is 4x. That leaves me x plus 3. My GCF here is 5. That leaves me x plus 3. So that becomes 4x plus 5, x plus 3. Okay, sorry about that. On your sheet, when you get this, it will be corrected. Okay. Once again, we multiply a times c. We get negative 30. What two numbers can we multiply to get negative 30x squared and add to get negative x? 6 and 5. I want it negative. So one has to be positive, one has to be negative, and I want it negative x, so that bigger one has to be negative. So I write 2x squared, I write negative 15, and then my insides, that negative x changes to negative 6x plus 5x, and then we factor by grouping. So what's the GCF here? 2x. And that's going to leave me x minus 3. What's the GCF here? 5. And that leaves me x minus 3. My insides are the same. They come out. And then what's left on the outside? 2x and 5. So I write that as 2x plus 5. Okay. Whew. Pause the video and come back and you do the last 3, and then come back and I'll give you the answers. Alrighty, welcome back. I'm just going to kind of do these quickly. I'm going to multiply these two together. I get 2. So the only thing that would work is 2 and 1. So that gives me 2x squared plus 2x plus 1x plus 1. Factor, factor, factor. Factor out of 2x. X plus 1. Factor out of 1 because that's all they have in common. X plus 1. And then we get 2x plus 1. X plus 1. Multiply a and c together, we get negative 12. Get negative 12. What can I multiply to get negative 12 and add to get negative 1? 3 and 4. So this is 3x squared minus 4x plus x minus 3x minus 4. My two numbers were 3 and 4 that I used. So I factor out an x. That leaves me with 3x minus 4. Factor out a 1. 3x minus 4. And I'm left with x plus 1. 3x minus 4. The last one, I'm going to multiply these two together. I get negative 10. What can I multiply to get negative 10 and add to get negative 9? 10 and 1, with the 10 being negative. So it is 2x squared minus 10x minus 1x minus 5. I factor by grouping. The GCF here is 2x. I'm left with x minus 5. Remember, because the negative is the leading term, I'm going to factor out a negative 1, and that's going to leave me with x plus 5. And that ain't right. That is negative 10. Oh, that should be positive 1. They both were not negative. That's positive 1, so that's positive here. So 2x plus 1, x minus 5. Because that should have stayed a negative. Okay? Alrighty. What I want you to do is practice in your notes. What you're going to do is you're going to tell me, you're going to match. So like for 3x squared plus 7x, it's 3x plus 1 times x plus 2. So that's why I wrote 8w. So you factor it, figure out which pairs match, and then you write your answer here. All right, boys and girls, remember to do your exit tickets tonight.